Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it. So I've been working this summer on some things to kind of help for remote courses in the fall. And Slack is something that is a really helpful tool because it is what's called a persistent chat program. So as you probably know, if you use Zoom chat in the spring semester, you know, say your students were sending great links and like inspirational things that they saw, whatever, the second you close out of that video call, all that information is gone. If a student wants to go back, you know, later that day and follow back one of those links, it's not there anymore for them to see. So that's why this fall, I'm going to be trying to use the chat program in Zoom as little as possible. And instead, I'm going to favor using Slack. So that way, if students, again, are sharing stuff, it's always there, it persists. So let me share screen and just talk about, hold on one second.
May I ask a question right up front?
Yeah, sure.
It's a persistent chat, but can it be a persistent image share?
Certainly, yeah, you can send, and we can practice some of those things today of like attaching an image to it and stuff. Yeah, like for example, you know, one of the things I was going to talk about today is like how you use different channels. One thing that might be good for an art and design classroom is just to have a channel called Work in Progress, and that's just where students throughout the entire semester, like the second they finish a new thing and they want some feedback on it, we just know it goes right to that channel, Works in Progress. And it's Slack is very interactive. Students can use like a thumbs up or a heart emoji. They can write comments back on it. The other thing that's really helpful too is it's not like once you, so in the Zoom chat, like once you post something, that's it. If you had a typo, if the link doesn't work, whatever, you just have to do it again. Whereas Slack allows you to go in and edit things at any point. So like, you know, say you put up an image and you know, whatever, you captioned it wrong, you can just go back and fix that caption. You don't have to kind of start over again.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sounds like just what we're looking for.
Yeah. And also I like that there's now, I guess I can introduce, well, here, let me turn the handout on first and then, so this is the document that we're going to be working from today. So what I asked for people to do before was just this creating an account. What we can do today is all join that CVPA faculty. And then what I was thinking is we can actually be using Slack in today's work session. We can like try out sending some messages, some reactions, set up different channels if we want in the faculty one and kind of use that as a test. I'm also hoping that today will be like a work session type day. I want everyone to at least set up one workspace. So the way I kind of see my semester going, I'm actually going to be managing 4 workspaces. I'm going to be managing one for each of my 3 courses. And then I'm actually going to turn Code Club into a workspace as well and add all of the students to the Code Club workspace that are interested in creative coding, that want to meet outside of class time, that want to work on projects. And so each one of those 4 workspaces is going to look totally different. For example, the class I'm running with my juniors and seniors, I'm setting up the channels to be by assignment. For my web development, I'm setting it up totally different. So that's a thing to keep in mind. Like you might want to pick the class to develop today while we're in like a collaborative space of maybe like the one that you feel like you want some help with, or like you're not sure how you would set up the workspace, because that way we actually have some people in the room, Michelle and Jess too, that have used this program a lot. So I'm really interested in their thoughts today too. So anyway, getting back to this document. So I thought today we could go through everyone create a workspace. You can add your students to it if you want. You can set up your profile today if you want as well. You can put your photo in there, maybe your job title, you know, any information that you want about yourself. And then I had just 3 things that have kind of come up that I think will be helpful for art and design classrooms specifically. And then the way that we'll end today is actually Jess is going to talk about the way that Slack kind of differs from Discord, because the animation and game arts program is going to be using Discord instead of Slack. So we just kind of wanted to take some time to talk about like the different pluses and minuses of each one. So, yeah, sound good?
Sounds great.
Nice. Has anyone other than Michelle and Jess set up a workspace before? I'm not looking in Jeopardy mode, so I can't see everyone's responses. I can now, though. How
I did yesterday.
you set one up yesterday? Yeah.
Cool.
Lara, if I may, speaking of persistence, every time I open up Slack, it reverts to, I suppose, a workspace that I used last semester, loaded up with students that are no longer my students necessarily. I want to open up a new one.
Okay.
How is that done?
That out of the gate. So one thing to keep in mind, let me share screen again. So there's two different ways that you can access Slack. You can do it through just the web browser. This might be good if you're kind of on the go, you know, you're using someone else's laptop, but you want to see things. The more kind of like stable, full, more robust way to use the program is to actually just download the desktop version. So that link is in the handout if you want to do that for today. It's up to you if you want to just do it through the web browser or whatever. But the reason I point that out, Bruce, right when you're first asking that question,
Yeah.
the way that you toggle between workspaces is different in the desktop, like the web browser version versus like the actual download of the application. So you can see like up here, like this is a workspace that I was part of a long time ago. This was like a coding intensive I did in 2018. So the way that it works on the one if you actually download the app is there should just be these icons that you can just very quickly like toggle from workspace to workspace. So I don't know if you're seeing that on yours or not, but yeah, you should be able to just click. You've all been invited to the CVPA faculty. If you haven't got that invite for some reason, send me a private message in the chat and I'll add you. But I can see right now Janine's online, Michelle's online, Rose, Vicky, and Sue. So the first goal that we should have for everyone is just to get everyone online. So again,
I do have Slack downloaded.
Nice.
So I'm looking at it. And everything I see is exactly what I saw last semester. And I guess that's my brief.
I think I have to, you can be my, I can add you to the workspace.
Oh, I see. I can add workspaces. Got it. Create a new workspace.
Nice.
I think I did it. Okay, you keep going. Oh, scheisse. Lara, you keep talking to the people you need to talk to. It looks like I have to put in a...
Well, yeah, why don't we can just take a minute now for everyone to just, maybe those of you, there looks like there's about 5 of you that are already on the chat program. If you want to, I made a channel last night called Remote Course Resources that I thought could be a collaborative CVPA channel for people to put up stuff. I can show what that channel looks like right now. It's pretty funny. Looks like some people are already populating it with content. But this is kind of what Slack is known for. You know, Janine's, you can see at the very top, I renamed the channel from Remote Courses to Remote Course Resource. I thought that would just make it a little bit clearer. And then, you know, people are waving hello, saying stuff. Michelle, do you want to talk a little bit about how you put that GIF in there? Because that's a big part of the Slack interface, I feel is like.
Yeah. The students, as you all know, are very much into animated GIFs. And, you know, if you're on Giphy or whatever, you can simply like cut and, you know, copy and paste and put it in the message. It'll go in there. This hot dog, my friend Olga made.
Cool.
Yep. Although I will admit, I think I put it in the wrong channel. I should have put it in the fun channel.
The fun channel.
Sorry.
If I could chime in real quick, there's also, the students love this, although I would keep it to an off-topic channel rather than the real stuff, you know what I mean? You can integrate Giphy into Slack. There are lots of integrations, which Laura may talk about. It's a little more advanced, but you just hit /Giphy and it will give you a random GIF.
If you want to demo it,
I
mean, if you have the ability to, I can make it so that you can share screen right now if you want to show it. Because I feel like I hadn't been planning on spending time today talking about GIFs, but I feel like, you know.
Oh,
it's
minor.
Like it's like it's a thing that, sorry, hold on. It's a thing that students really enjoy, I find. I don't know, are other people finding that when they teach? that a lot of communication happens through GIFs, I feel.
Dear
So-
Laura, I'm sorry, Jess, am I stepping on your toes?
Not at all.
Could you resend that invitation to the workspace that you want to work with today?
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll just do this as fast as I can here because it's really not a big deal. But if I just, let's see, do I have the ability to share?
Yes, I just turned it on.
Okay.
For anyone that isn't, I'll just say this quick before this demo, for anyone that isn't seeing the invite to the CVPA faculty, if you could just send me your email in the private chat to me and I'll add you to the workspace.
So this is fairly simple. I typed in /Giphy, and the bot on the Slack channel told me you don't have the Giphy integration. So I clicked here and I said enable. Fairly simple. And then I hit /Giphy and whatever content I want. Okay, so I make no apologies for whatever pops up now. Okay. So it's a random choice. It's generated by the words you choose. I can then hit send or shuffle. I think no one else can see this. It says only visible to you. So if I hit send, it goes to the channel. That's all.
Nice.
That wasn't random, everybody. Just loves dogs. I'm sorry.
It is true.
Sorry, I'm just adding members right now. Does anyone else, Michelle, do you have, while I'm adding a couple of people, do you have suggestions specifically around setting up channels and like the logic that you use? Because I know you used it pretty heavily in your courses.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a logic or not, but you know, just like we do in class, I had small groups within the class that were the same throughout those last 6 weeks of the semester. And those small groups set up channels and they, you know, did their crits in those during class time, and I monitored them during that time. And then we had a channel for the whole class. Then we had a channel for resources, a channel for works in progress, like you suggested. What else did I have? Trying to remember. But, you know, just like you do in regular class, it would, you know, it's not rocket science. Same content.
All right, so the two people that put their emails in the chat, you should see the invite now. It looks like Kelly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Michelle, for that.
So Laura, I should see the email in my.
Yeah, in your UMass D. All right, so the next thing we'll do once everyone is in is I can talk about how to set up a new channel. I can show how to rename a channel. And then the next thing we can all do is each set up a workspace for whatever course that you want to do today. Does anyone have like an idea in mind of like which course they want to set up the workspace today for and why?
If it matters, I'm ahead of you this time. I actually just set one up once I found how to do it. So I've got my sophomore class.
You did your sophomore class?
Yeah.
And do you have any thoughts on like how you'll break up the channels?
Yes, I've got this teasing thought that I'd like to chop my students up into 3 groups. So there'll be a set of, say, 6 or 7 students in one subsection, 6 or 7 in a second subsection, 6 or 7 in a third subsection. And I'd like them working together and communicating together during these, during at least some of the class sessions.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about today, I can actually use that as a prompt to talk about. I wanted to talk about this idea of private channels versus public channels. So when you set up a new channel, you can either opt if you want it public, meaning like everyone that's in that workspace can see it, or you can set things to be private. So for example, in my junior and senior class, we're actually making course tour videos for Jan's in the room, some other people in the room that we're making course tour videos for. And I'm setting each one of those groups up as a private channel. And I'm gonna put on that team the 3 students that will be working on it and the 1 faculty member that's kind of overseeing it. And then by default, me as like the creator of the entire workspace, I'll be on that channel too. So that's how the 5 of us will correspond about that course project, any links that are up there. Jess said a little bit about integration already. So Slack is industry standard across many industries right now. And because of that, they really have robust integration. So one of the things that they're fully integrated with is OneDrive. So if you post up a link to a OneDrive file, it kind of like, as long as you enable the integration with OneDrive, it's like very kind of like user friendly, like you click on the folder, go there. So it's very good for like project tracking, like getting the latest version of something. Sean, are you in this space? I don't see Sean. Sean and I are both using a program that's called GitHub for version control, and that's fully integrated with Slack as well. So if students are making updates on a project, it's just letting everyone know. I've also reached out at UMass Dartmouth to IT to see if they can enable Zoom for us. We can't with our level of control, but Zoom and Slack are fully integrated too. So say in that breakout channel where I have the 5 people working on that course tour video, if we were all online and active, from that one channel, you just click a button to start an instant meeting, and then all of a sudden all 5 of us are in Zoom together. So it takes out this whole huge step of like students having to like email each other to coordinate a meeting time and like sending each other their meeting room numbers and all this stuff. It just makes it much more like it is in an actual work environment where you're just clicking and going into an instant meeting. So that's something that I am hoping will happen this semester, because I think that would be a really nice tool. So yeah, think about that as you're setting up your channels, if you want them to be private or public. The one thing to consider is once you set up a private channel and have it like operating, you can't go back and like later decide like, oh, actually, you know what, this would be better public. Once it's private, for some reason, the way that the program's built, it can't be made public. So just a thing to consider.
One thing I'd like to add to that too about the private channels is I had a student group who didn't want the other students to see what they were talking about, and they made it private without talking to me. So you might want to set a precedent about that in the class about whether students are allowed to make channels private or not.
I think that there's also a difference, and Laura, maybe you were going to go into this, between channels and group messages or direct messages, which will show up underneath.
You want to talk a little bit about that specifically, yeah, you can go for it.
All right, I was just going, sure, I'll just share real quick then, just to show what I mean. Underneath, oh, let's get out of this one. Okay, so underneath these channels here, this is one that I set up for some colleagues of mine who are also illustrators and cartoonists. I can direct message any of the people in this list here just by clicking on them. And this is our conversation, you know? Or, you know, I can go back to channels, and there's more general content here. But you can also start a group direct message by going here, and you just start it and you just start typing.
Jess, if it's not a group message, is it just by definition private communication between you and whoever you've selected for the direct message?
Yes, so the way that DMs work, you're either speaking directly to that person, no one else can see it as listed here, or the way I would think about this is more like text messages.
Yeah.
Direct messages are more like text messages. Channels are more like group chat rooms where anyone can see it. You could even have someone join at a later time, and then I think they would be able to see what was posted before then. Whereas direct messages, I don't think you can add someone to a group after it has started. The idea is that this is private And I also, to Michelle's point, do not know of a way to keep users from starting their own VM private text. But then students could easily get each other's phone numbers and be texting anyway if it's a remote class. So I don't see any real way to keep people from talking sort of off to the side chats. So yeah, I just wanted to make a distinction there because there's these different options here between private chats and private channels, which have a lock sign on them, right? The private channels.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to discourage them having private chats. It's just I was making everyone aware that a student could theoretically make a channel private without talking to you about it.
Mm-hmm. And to that point too, like you might want to create a channel on day one that's like called like course ethics or like Slack or like however you want to phrase it, but where somehow you set like community standards for that. And you know, like also, I don't know if you maybe necessarily use the word bullying, but just like, you know, what are the feelings that we want this chat to be? Like we want it to feel professional. We want it to feel organized. We want it like just kind of like setting the tone. And then so that that's not such like an ephemeral, like, okay, we talked about it and now it's like, who even remembers 2 months later? Like you can actually make like an ethics channel and like, you know, post all that and like other people can be like, you know, stating what they think a great guideline would be and people can be going back and editing. So like, it's really a nice way of thinking of like, it's not email, right? Like this is like kind of in a way an email replacement, but it's also fluid and it's also like very user contributed and like editable. And yeah, a lot of work teams like use this instead of email. It becomes like the email replacement. So yeah, and just thank you for specifically I feel like I was that's why it's so great that this is like collaborative with all the three of us because like I have been so focused on like channels and like logic for channels. And so, yeah, I think, thank you for talking specifically about the chat.
Totally. Yeah, I'm not sure everything you're going to talk about. So whenever there's like a thing that I think of, I'll just try to unobtrusively just sort of mention it. And to your point, Slack actually started, and it's a huge part of their marketing that you don't need email anymore. It's just Slack. But what winds up actually happening in like a corporate Slack, because Slack is sort of corporate in its vibe, as opposed to Discord, which is more gamey. People will just sort of go off and say anything without, you know, you may reread an email 3 or 4 times before you send it. Not so with Slack. It's instantaneous. People will load it up. They'll say whatever right off the top of the dome. So it's just something to keep in mind. I think it doesn't completely replace email in my mind, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Personal opinion.
Yeah. Jan, you had a question?
Yeah, I have the creative channel open, and under the name, how would you suggest, say for a class, like what are your suggestions from your experience of like how to name them, I guess?
The workspace or the channels?
It says name and then it says description. Is that what it says? Create a channel, and then the little prompt here says.
Do you want to share your screen?
I'm on my.
All right, well, the next thing that we're going to go through is all together is setting up a workspace, which you can think of the workspace as like what kind of contains everything. And then the step 2 that we're going to do once we set up that workspace is have everyone set up a channel. So I'm not sure if you've set up a workspace first, but why don't I just jump into, we're already like almost a half an hour in. So why don't I jump back into the setting up of a workspace. All right, so this is our CVPA faculty workspace. Looks like there's more people active now. And my hope is just, I'll add the grad students to this too and all faculty, and we can use this to correspond for the semester. So if you have any thoughts of like other channels that would be helpful to have, ways to organize things, this can just be a group that we have. All right, so let me go back to, okay, so the first thing that you're gonna do to create a workspace is you're gonna go to this link that's in the handout, slack.com/create. You can also do it from the actual app, but let's do it this way. Sorry, my connection's being a little slow. I might go back and do it through the app. Okay, so it's recommended that you do yours through your UMass account. Mine is set up through my Gmail, so I'm gonna keep doing it that way. Okay, so what it should do, I'm gonna stop share for a second because it's gonna bring me to my email. But once you was everyone able to do that first step to go there? And okay, so what it should have done is to your UMass Dartmouth email, it's gonna message you a 6-digit code. So that it does that every time you set up a new workspace. It's for security measures to just make sure that you are who you say you are. So what you can do is you can go to your UMass email and get that code, paste it in, and then we'll.
This is a rudimentary question, but I was seeing this really as sort of a phone thing, but it seems like it's more of a laptop. Or does it just fluidly go back and forth? Because I can imagine.
You can download the mobile version for your phone. It's really just like text messaging. It's up to you, like how many notifications you want to get through the day, right? Because it could just be like bing, 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 like every time a student sends a message, you know? So you might, what I suggest is getting the mobile version, but turning off the notifications. And then on your desktop version, keeping them on. Do other people find that too?
Yeah, I turned them off on my phone during class time and then turned it back on my phone so that I would get notifications from direct messages from students at other times. So I actively turned it on and off on my phone every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So what you should have now, once you put that 6-digit code in, is it's going to ask you what is the name of your, and so again, Jess is right? It's a very corporate program. So it's saying like company or team, but what I'm going to do here, I've set up mine for all of my courses except for the 2D form and surface. So if your name is really short and succinct and like pretty unique, chances are you'll get like a really nice URL for your Slack channel, or Slack workspace. So for example, ours is cvpafaculty.slack.com or something like that. That's how you can access anywhere on the internet that workspace. You know, because I'm calling this 2D form and surface, like it's probably gonna give me a jumbled thing. So why doesn't everyone put in just, and I guess, is anyone not at this step yet? Does anyone need help getting here?
So what would you suggest the name be then? The actual name of our class?
The name of your class, yep. So mine is gonna be all, like my 3 workspaces are gonna be the name of my class, and then I'm gonna make a 4th one called Code Club, and that's what we're gonna use for Code
And are you going to, do you do AXD 257, or do you just put the name of the class?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's up to you, like what seems better to you. I'm just doing the names of my courses, but certainly it could work to put the class code first.
And should we put like fall 2020 because of what Bruce was saying about, you know, that when he signed in, he automatically went back to last year's, or do we not need to do that?
You can totally do that. Yeah, I mean, if it helps, I would say whatever helps you feel more organized and like, because this, again, this workspace is always going to be there. It's not like at the end of the semester you hit like a big delete button and it's gone, right? Like that's one of the things that's nice about, like, say that coding intensive that I did, like for the rest of my life now, I have that as a resource. I can go back to and see like the coding challenges we did and like, you know, the feedback that my classmates gave me on my mobile app or whatever. So if it helps you to know like when in time, because if you're going to have a million things that are called 2D form and surface, like, or even like someone like Michelle that's teaching 2 sections of the same course, like chances are you'll probably need a higher level of order.
Yeah,
Right?
and you can go back in then. I'm hearing what you're saying, and if somebody gave a great suggestion and you remember it 2 years, somebody did that 2 years later, you can go find that content.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
That's why actually I've never done a Slack channel where I have a one per every assignment, but I think I'm going to do that this semester because like where my class is ending up is with like interaction design and like but I want to start giving them resources earlier in the semester of like things to get them kind of curious and like things to think about, maybe things to start researching. So my hope is that like organizing it by assignment like will allow not only as we're working on it for them to be able to kind of research and dig deeper, but that like later in time they can come back to this and like look at just that one channel for that one assignment and like see what was posted about it. So that's kind of my thought. All right, so once you get to this second window, basically whatever you put in here is going to become your first channel. So I guess just to explain channels a little bit deeper, it's just a way of thinking of like ordering something or structuring something or like theming something. So if you're on Instagram, for example, it would be a hashtag, right? Like you would say like, you maybe make this post about this silk screen that you did, and then you would like hashtag silk screen, whatever. So you're kind of like giving it a label. You're saying like, why does this room exist? Like what goes in here? So since this is my 2D form and surface, maybe the first one I'll make is called works in progress. So this is a standard thing that I suggest doing. It used to be that, you know, across like some people did what's called camel case. So maybe like make that I uppercase or the P uppercase using underscores. What's become, in my experience, just kind of used across the board are just like simple dashes. So these channels, they don't allow for spaces. Everything has to just be one word. So I suggest everyone kind of doing this logic, just, you know, all lowercase with dashes instead of spaces. So think of what you want your first channel to be. We can make this a little interactive. Does anyone have no idea what they want their first channel to be and want some feedback on what it should be? No? People have a good sense? Ziti, I think, were you saying something? I think you're muted.
I just wrote artist sources.
Yeah.
Anthony, what did you say?
I just wrote artist sources, just one word.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
See it.
All right, so let's go back to this window, and now I'm going to hit next. My workspace has been officially created. It sent off a little thing. So you are going to have to manually add students one by one to this. So you can go to your roster, get their emails, and add them. Technically, you could click this right here, and now I've copied a link, and then I could put that in an email, send it to them. But I just find that they won't have the same return rate as if I go in and invite everyone individually, because they're going to get like notified that like they've been added to this workspace, and it just kind of puts it makes it a little easier for them, similar to how most of you should have got an invite before this workshop today. So just a thing to consider. If you don't want to do that step right now of adding your students, you can just hit skip for now. And then we can head over to our channel. Oh, I just got 2dformandsurface.slack.com. So that was a nice, clean one. All right, so some things that I've been doing when I set up my first channel, I've been renaming random to fun. So I recommend you setting up some sort of channel where that students can just like share silly stuff or a funny thing they found or whatever without it getting in the way and like kind of cluttering. Because students you want to think about efficiency on this. Like if they're going to like find a code snippet or like a piece of a lecture that you posted, like they just want to get to that fast. They don't want to be like scrolling through like hot dog, you know, animations and stuff like that. So if you know, by default, it's going to give you one called general, one called random, and then one called whatever you just created. So if you want, you can come in here, click on it, and then do additional options. And then one of those additional options is rename this channel. And what it's saying is definitely true. Like true, you can rename channels, but don't do it often or like mid workflow, because it's going to confuse people. They're going to log in and be like, I'm trying to find the works in progress channel. Like, why is it named something differently now? So kind of probably what you set is what you want to keep. So yeah, that is setting up a workspace and creating a new channel.
Laura, how did you get to that where you changed the name? Because I clicked on it and it just opened it.
You might have to let me go back and see if I
Control click.
Yeah, I think I might have done a control click. Yeah, I did a control click.
Control click. Got it.
Sorry, I didn't mention that.
Can I ask for advice on something? Like Bruce is thinking of doing his group into 3 smaller groups. I'm thinking of doing the same thing. And then I hear you, Lara, talk about putting things by assignment, which I think is also a good idea. Like, would it, how would you, like, if you were also going into 3 groups, would you have a channel for each of your 3 groups for them to discuss and then have another one that's for each of the assignments so they could go into either place?
Yes, I would do that. Yep, I would do because they're going to be used in different ways. And also, like, when the students log in, you as the creator of this workspace, yours is going to be like really full, but theirs is going to look much more minimal. When they log in, they're just going to see their private work group, and then they're going to see all 5 assignments underneath or whatever.
Okay.
We're the only one that will see every group. So
excellent.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it breaking it down in any more detail than that. Like, I would either do like work groups for your smaller subsections and either do it by like assignment or major theme, but I wouldn't have too many channels, because then I think they're not, like, think about it the same way as when you're setting up your course structure and like figuring out where your files are going to go. Like, you want it to have like a kind of a cleanness and clarity to it, or else people are like gonna not know where to post stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a way when we're doing that we can toggle back and forth and see what the students see?
I don't think that you can get like a user view. Jess, do you know that?
Nikki, why would you want to see what the student sees?
Just because I want, because what I'm setting up, I just want to see if it looks like not cluttered. Because
no, it just looks like yours, just fewer.
It's this, yeah, it's the same. They just won't see channels that they haven't been invited to.
Yeah. Also, one thing, Laura, to back up a little bit, when you were talking about instead of just clicking and getting the invite to the Slack group, I actually preferred to send out the link because some of my upper level students don't like using their UMass email. They'd prefer to use their Gmail or something else.
Oh, I'm gonna write the note down. I hadn't even thought of that.
So you might want to give students the option, like they like keeping things, you know, separate. I think some of them do. Just a FYI.
Yeah, I had never actually thought of that before, but no, that's I think, you know, as I showed you today, I have everything linked to my own Gmail because I know that that's like an email that I've had forever, will have forever, you know, so I get that, yeah.
So you're saying that you don't use your UMass email for anything with students anymore? Is that what
No, that's not what I said, Vicki. I said that some students would prefer to use their preferred email instead of a UMass email. And so when Lara was saying that she put every student's email in, I actually prefer to just send them a link to the group and they can choose whatever email they want to use.
Okay, well, I understand that. That wasn't my question, but we can talk about that later.
Okay.
Now that you've said that, Michelle, like I feel like that makes a lot of sense because you're right. Like even some of the students in my class, they just use their Gmail the whole semester. I hadn't really thought of that.
I find that really annoying, just saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Any other questions on have people set up their first workspace?
Laura, can I log on to the mobile and the phone at the same time? It's sort of bumping me out.
It should be able to. Yep, you should be able to be on both.
All right. I just shut
I
down.
would say most people, like, if they're in their like work day, they are on both.
All right.
All right, so I'm gonna share screen a second and just talk a little bit. I'm in the mobile version right now, so I can give a little demo of what that looks like. All right, so now I'm in my 2D form and surface, and you know, it's pretty minimal at this point. I haven't invited people, I gotta build out my channels, all that kind of stuff. But if you are in your work day and you're like, okay, I'm switching from working on, you know, stuff from this course and I want to start looking at my other course right now and see how that's going. The way on the mobile version that you do that is you click at the top right where this drop down arrow is. And in here, you can either add another workspace or you can switch workspaces. So here I'm seeing all the other workspaces that I'm part of, that CVPA faculty, my digital material and processes, and my web typography class. So I'm gonna switch back over to this. So I really appreciate when Jess showed the window today, because you got to see what that looks like populated with chats in it and like with things. You know, mine is like pretty small as to what's going on right now, but I have invited my students. Most of them have accepted. You can see none of them are online right now. So when someone's online, it'll have a little green button next to them. You can also say that you're busy, and that makes your icon red. So that means like, yes, I am active, but I'm working on something else. And that's kind of setting, again, you can talk about that in that like ethics channel. That's kind of like letting your colleagues know, or your classmates know that like, you're busy right now, but you're around. So that could mean like, you know, send me a message, but I'll get back to you later, whatever. And then another thing I wanted to show here was just kind of the channels a little bit more built out. So in here I have the course tour video, but then I also have, you can see course tour and then lighting. So this is the first group that I've made. You also want to set a channel description. Whenever you're building remote classes, you always want to be thinking about accessibility and the fact that students are going to be maybe taking multiple versions of courses just like this, and that like it's a lot for them to keep track of. So one of the best ways that you can do that in Slack is by setting channel descriptions, which is just like a really short description of like why that channel even exists. And the thing that's nice is that it will be up at the top as long as you create the channel and give it a name, reason why it's there at the same time. And then you can see the third post I've put in here is the folder of video assets that Stephanie created. So right now, just, you know, I've already added the 2 of the 3 students that are going to be in that working group. So already, even though the course hasn't started, they're able to see a folder of assets if they so choose and get a sense of like, okay, this is the video that I'm going to be working on, and here's the script that we're working with, here's all the imagery. So the thing I love about, I don't know that I would be using Slack as much as I am right now if my class wasn't remote, but the thing that I do love about it is that it mimics a professional workflow. Like if they're going to be working on tutorial videos or, you know, whatever they're going to be working on in their career, chances are it's going to be like this. They're going to be in a chat room with their colleagues. People are going to be posting links to folders. They're going to be like upvoting something, which is like, you know, maybe you put in like 2 concepts of a thing and like people are, you know, voting for which one they prefer. So this kind of like workspaces, it's preparing them for the industry. Does anyone else have thoughts on that or things to add?
I just want to clarify. So you said in that first post that you put in, put your description of your channel there.
Yeah, so actually we could practice that, people making a new channel and giving it a description at the same time, because I didn't do that for the only way that we've made a channel so far is to create it when we made the workspace. So I can show what it looks like to make it when you're in Slack. So, all right, so I'm in here and I come up to my channels and I hit this plus sign and I come down to create a channel. And then I could put, let me do like, what is another one? Course tour. Jan, what's your class called? Senior Studio?
Mine will be community engagement.
You want it to be community engagement?
Well, the one that you're doing, or the one?
No, the one that my course is doing for you.
Oh,
the course tour.
It's capstone and graphic design. Graphic design capstone.
I feel like one of the things that's going to take the most is just coming up with the naming conventions and like making sure it's all clear and consistent. So, and you can see here you have a character limit. So I would have 57 more characters. Is that how it's working? Yeah, I would have 57 more characters. It doesn't look like it's accepting, you know, it's just letters and dashes, nothing else. So then I could come here and just be like, group working on the, you know, I'll go back and populate this more there. And so then I have an option here of, do I make this private or do I make it public? So I want this one to be private because I just want Jan and the working members of that team to be able to see it. And then I can hit create. And now my new channel has been created. So you can see, like, I'm gonna have eventually 6 of these breakout channels for course, tour, dash, whatever. So that's, again, like why naming convention is so important. Think of like anything that starts with the same thing is gonna alphabetically stay organized. And that's gonna make it much easier when I'm, you know, say I'm at midterm reviews and I'm trying to do an in-process check-in to see where everyone's at. Like, you know, half my channels aren't way down here and half my channels way up here. So just really think about like that alphabetical order keeps it organized. You can also see things that are open channels. They have a hashtag next to them versus things that have the little lock sign. That means that only specific people within that channel can see it. Also for this class, like it's not just going to be assignments and whatever. Again, I mentioned you might not want to go like overboard, but I'm probably going to put maybe one in there called like daily or something. I don't know if people have thoughts on that, but I think like that's where I'll post all like the video tutorials we're doing that day and like the, you know, just to have it in one spot. I was also, that class is going to be doing a little bit with code. So I was thinking like maybe I have a channel called like code snippets that like people are sharing like relevant like snippets of code as we move through the semester. So yeah, those are some of the thoughts. So has everyone successfully made a workspace and added some channels?
But you showed us how to add a description to a new channel. How do I now go back and add a description to work in progress?
There might not be a way to. Let me look and see. It might be one of those things that once it's made, it's just kind of made. You could always, if you wanted to, probably delete the channel and create it again.
Okay, great.
You can go to
Jess, you cut yourself off.
Yeah, you
why don't I think I figured this out if you want me to screen share real quick.
Yeah, why don't you share screen? That'll be great.
Yeah, I can't remember if this is something I've had to do before, but it looks like this should work as long as Zoom can figure out what I want to do here. Sure, I'll share my desktop. That should be fine. Wait, there we go. Okay, so again, let's see. So we're here. I'm going to go to one of the ones that I made myself because I can alter it. If I right click or control click on a channel here, I get this option, additional options, which is just another way of saying we didn't have enough room in this drop down menu for all of the things that you want to be able to do. So I can set the channel description here.
Back to where we were, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go here and you hit update description and that is it. Fairly
Nice.
simple. Yeah.
You taught me something new today.
One thing that I will share while I have this open, if I go to @channel like this and I say, look at this message. By saying @channel, anyone who has push notifications enabled will get a notification. It's like I'm adding all of you. Whereas if I say, and then it'll give me this notification like, are you sure you want to be this annoying and notify everyone in the channel of your message? And I'll say, yeah, you're the instructor, right? They should be. Whereas I can go to here and it'll show me a list of people here and I can say, Bruce, hi, and it will instead just notify Bruce. Everyone will see this, but for instance, but you might want to use this at times because you may want to indicate, for instance, like let's say Laura did something said something interesting, and I can say, as Laura, and I don't have to type the whole name, I can just click here, mentioned blah, 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 you know, and then I can say that to all the students, and that student will feel like, oh, they remember that I said this nice thing. You know, it's the same as when you're doing it orally. So that can be sort of useful in a class, I think.
When I did, for those of you that were at the last workshop, and thank you for talking about that. Yeah, and it will give you a notification too, which is great. But at the last workshop, I talked a little bit about polling and how this sense of like, you know, so much polling used to just like happen in the room, right? Like, should we take a break now, or should we stick around for another 20 and push through this or whatever? But now in a virtual space, it's like a lot harder to do polling. So one of the things that's nice about Slack is that there's multiple ways to do polling. I might like post this as an add-on to the handout and just kind of talk about it more and like offer some more links, because I don't know that I necessarily need to go into the details of like making a poll right now, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about like not only you using polls, but like also suggest, like teach your students how to make polls too, because they might be wanting to get feedback from their classmates in certain ways of like, do you like the green version, or do you like the blue colorway, or do you think I should start over again? And they can actually just like, by typing, it's like certain keys that you can just type in really quick and in like a minute make a survey, and then students can go in, like other people in that collaborative workspace can go in, click on things, and they can kind of know the results. So it's a way to get like kind of faster feedback. And again, you can use it as the instructor, or they can do it as well. I was trying to find, while Jess was talking, I was trying to find like a good resource on that, and I feel like all the ones I'm finding are they talk more about like using emojis with it, which I don't know that is the way that I'm trying to go, but this is what I'll show for now, and then I'll try to post like a better resource in. But it's these characters here of like the double stack dots, and then like, you know, which thing you want to use. And then people could go in here and like click on those emojis and like vote for things. But I know it's a little abstract in the way I'm describing it. Michelle or Jess, I don't know if you've used polls on Slack, and if you have maybe better resources or things that you found helpful.
You can add custom emoji to Slack. I don't know if that's something that would come up in any classes necessarily. There's tons of emoji already. Could be a fun way to customize it, I guess, but it's a fairly minor detail, probably.
Yeah. Do you find that like there's time, like how do you feel like students give the most effective feedback on Slack? Say someone posts like an image or something like that.
So I actually use Slack socially, and I used Discord with my students last spring at my old institution. But they're very similar, which is like when I talk about them, I'll mention this. But the way that they give feedback to each other, it's hard to draw them out, I think, in this way, unless there is, I would say that you need to implement a structure. You need to set the scope ahead of time. It's the same as anything else. If you don't, they're just going to give each other thumbs ups, which is not critical or helpful at all. They're just going to give each other a thumbs up or a heart, or say, I don't know. I'm blanking on slang right now. They're just going to say that they really like something.
Yeah.
You know? That's fire. There we go.
Okay. It's the same with it being in person. You would establish those guidelines for critiques, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's no different on Slack.
I wanted to show just one snippet of kind of what the syntax looks like. So say you wanted to make a poll to get a sense for like, if your students wanted the next meeting to be like one-on-one meetings or a group meeting or whatever, it was kind of fast. This is like how it makes it. You just do a /poll. And then in the first thing of quotes, you put what that first question is. And then every quote that's after that, you put the options. So let me just copy that so that we can see what it looks like when it goes into Slack. All right, so let me change workspaces to our CVPA faculty. And then hopefully hopefully my live demo magic trick will actually work. All right, so maybe in this fun, I'll put it in this fun one for now. So I'm going to do Command V, paste in that snippet. Oh, poll is not valid. Hold on, sorry. Sorry, my live demo is not working. What it's supposed to do is actually like create that into like a small form and then have those clickable options. So I can work on the bugs a little bit more out of that. But I do think that'll be helpful for students to use to just kind of collect quick feedback. And again, like kind of break them out of this like Instagram way of approaching stuff. Cause that's my worry too, is that like the in progress channel is just gonna be like thumbs up and hearts, and like it's not gonna feel really like nutrient rich. So I guess that's why the polling I kind of came across when I was figuring out ways to include this in an art and design classroom, because I'm like, maybe I make each student write 2 poll questions, you know? So they're like getting specific, like, do you think my type is like dense enough? Or do you think that the green is cohesive with the rest of the palette or whatever, just so that they're like, yeah. So anyway, I'll kind of go back to that and maybe I'll make like a short thing of polling, but I do think that that will be helpful in certain channels for them to have conversation that feels a little bit more rich.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, another way you could go about that other than polling too is just to say that you have to comment to at least, you know, X amount of students, and like, it can't be like, it's good, which like to Michelle's point is like exactly what would happen in person too, right? Like you have to set those standards, but yeah, nice. All right, so the other thing that I have left to do is having Jess talk about the difference between Slack and Discord. Does anyone else have any questions for me? And also I wanted to say too, like, you know, if you're setting up your workspaces and you get stuck on something or you're not sure about something, like definitely feel free to email me, and I'm glad to answer questions.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is great. Laura, just quick question. Slack, just to reiterate, you're usually running Slack parallel with the Zoom while you're teaching, so that this is just a space where you're capturing things and staying there.
Yes, and last semester I was just using the Zoom chat, but that's one change I'm going to make this semester, of like asking students to like use the Slack chat instead of Zoom, so that
you have the history, the persistent, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, as Michelle, I was going to say, also as Michelle and I found last night too, like if someone comes in late to a thing and say I've already posted all the links for that day and like our learning objectives and like all that stuff, they're not going to see any of it because they came into the room late. Whereas if it's on Slack, like actually, to be honest, you might have the student at home that's like, oh crap, I'm supposed to be in class right now, because they get a Slack notification of like the days, you know? So
I've had that exact situation with Discord, but yeah. Or you can, on Discord, it's funny because you can see that they're playing a specific game or they're listening to a song on Spotify and they'll be like, oh, that was my sister who's playing the game and on my Discord profile. It's very funny.
Nice. All right, so Jess, do you have, oh, Laura.
Advice again, going off of what Ziti just said. So I'm thinking like to use Zoom for the interactive talking part, and then Slack for the chat part, and then my courses to keep all of the resources and to put up all the quizzes and for the grading, to have them put their assignments up.
And do the assignments there. Okay.
Yeah, because I know how to use the rubrics, and the rubrics are really helpful for grading and just automatically figuring out all the math for the grading. So like if something's worth 20% and something's worth 10%, I don't have to do any of the math. So, but I guess what I'm wondering is, since I think you've used all 3, would you find that it makes more sense to try to consolidate down to 2? Like, can Slack do some of what my courses does?
What I'm planning on using is my courses for grading pretty exclusively, and like, and I'm going to also have an outline of like course, like week 1, week 2, week 3, and like, but I think I'm going to mostly use Slack to like push out where students should be going that day, and like the.
So if you want them to do if you want them to read a certain PDF or go and look at a certain video or something, you're going to do that in Slack and just use My Courses for a place to upload their work and or go take their quizzes or whatever.
I think I'm mostly going to use it for grades. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just, sorry.
Go ahead, Bruce.
I was just going to add on to that. You mentioned earlier that there's an affiliation between OneDrive and Slack. How is that arranged, or should I trouble you with that question in private?
All you have to do is enable it in your workspace. And then basically what it does is it just makes it like a more fluid. I don't know exactly what the integration does, but it just, like before when I had posted that link to the folder, it was just kind of like clunky and and then once I integrated, it was just like, here's the link. And it was just like right there. And so I think it just kind of like cleans it up a little bit, takes some of the clunkiness away.
How does one enable it?
Thank you.
It might be more, when you just put how I enabled it was I put a OneDrive link in and it said like, would you like to enable OneDrive functionality in this workspace?
I'll trouble you with this later, Laura, because I don't know where you put that OneDrive. Where did you put it?
I can talk a little bit about integrations.
Oh, thank you, Jess. Thank you.
I'm interested.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
All right.
I haven't used that one specifically, but I can give an overview.
If you want to talk about it now, Jess, too, we have some time. I'm curious.
Okay.
It will be, part of the video documentation for everyone too.
I'm curious.
That's a good point. How much time do we have budgeted here? I'll try to tailor what I'm gonna say to it. Maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Does that work for people?
Yes, it does.
We're going to talk about Slack and Discord too.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to talk about as much as I can in that time, because they are fairly simple on their faces, these applications, but there's a lot of nuances that you can get into if you want to. Also, hi, for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm new faculty. I'm a full-time lecturer in illustration. My name is Jeff. And I use Slack a lot. It started for me, and I'm gonna share my screen here, when I have this group of friends who I grew up with, who I'm gonna get away from their channel because I don't know if they'd appreciate me sharing all their information. But we all moved to different parts of the world, and this is how we keep up now, is with a Slack channel. And some people are hypersocial, so they talk a lot. Some people are less so, and they just check the channel every now and then. And it's been especially nice for the last 5 months or whatever it's been, obviously, because we haven't seen each other as much. So that's been nice. What do I want to say about Slack real quick? Let's see. I'm seeing that this person is online, and they just use them as an example here. I just wanted to mention that you can call someone on Slack. You can it's sort of like a phone call, like a Slack call, like a Skype call. There's also, and I'm not going to actually call them because I don't want to bother that person right now in the middle of the meeting.
I think that you're on the call, right?
No, I exited out, but but the point I was making was that you can use Slack for audio or video chat with an individual, or I think with a small group. I haven't tried it. If you want to do it with an entire channel, as you do with Zoom, then you would need, I think, a paid account. The other thing that changes if you pay for Slack is you get more messages. So regularly a workspace in Slack gets 10,000 messages, which sounds like a lot, but it adds up fairly quickly. I don't think you'll get there over the course of a semester, but it's certainly possible with more social groups, I would say. So in any case, you can, if you want to call someone, you just go to their name down here. They have to be online. Right now, there are only 2 of us online along with the bot. Obviously, I can't call the bot. Nothing's going to happen. It's just a bot. Another thing I want to mention, it's not something I can do here because I did not create this workspace. But for instance, with this workspace that I created, I can do a bundle of things here that I would not be able to do if I had not created the workspace. Okay, so let's see, what do we want here? Pardon my slow connection. This is a very quiet channel. So we'll go here for a minute just to get away from it all. Okay. So what am I trying to do here? Okay, so if I go to, how did I do this before? Preferences. Okay, there we go. So if I go here and I go to preferences, what it's going to do, take me to this preferences bar. And, oh, do I have to go to advanced? Maybe I have to go to advanced. I thought I remembered how to do this, but in any case, you can change the icon here for your channel. So it's not just, so it's a little more memorable. You know, this is the Addams Family. Made sense for Cartoon Family. Surrealist Comics Club, which my friend made. Sorry?
I also noticed you have like a different color theme too.
Yes, you can choose different color themes. And I apologize, it's completely fleeting my mind how I did this before, but I could figure it out again and easily share that in the Slack channel, in the CVPA faculty Slack channel. I can share the directions on how to do that once I get there. Another thing that is helpful that I wanted to show is, as I mentioned, you often get this thing where people are posting a lot and something important may get lost. So one thing that I like to do is right click on something and then go to this little icon here and save. So for instance, I wanted to save that this person is the art director at The Believer because I thought, oh, I'm gonna jump on that. I wanna email this person about illustrating for The Believer. So then if I go here to saved items, I have that for me. So that's sort of useful. So these are just a couple little tips and tricks that I have picked up. There's more, obviously, there's lots of integrations. And in order to show you, I think I have to go to Safari. So let's see. Let's just type in Slack integrations. But basically the way that integrations work are, for instance, if you were to use Google Drive, I haven't used OneDrive. I actually need to learn it since that's what we use here. If you were to use a Google Drive integration, then let's say a student uploads a file to the drive, you would get a notification in Slack that something changed in the drive. That's the idea anyway, is that it's a space where you get notifications so that you can bounce back and forth between these applications, websites, what have you, more easily. So top Slack integrations, these are ads. We're not going to go there. Slack integrations, there we go. And apps, well, we're not going to go into that. Like I was saying, wow, my internet is really slow. There's a lot that you can add in here. So here's an example. So it'll show up sort of like a link that someone has shared in social media or elsewhere, where you can share this thing and then it's easily clickable. So OneDrive is an example there. Or like I said, it should be giving you notifications of things that change on that app if you connect the two. And I couldn't speak more definitively towards what that means in this context, because again, I haven't used OneDrive, but it seems very feasible. Okay, so Discord. Any questions before I talk about the difference between these two very similar but slightly different apps? So Discord, and I'm shooting through this quickly because I don't want to keep everyone too long, is very similar to Slack. They're both chat apps. They're very much like the chat rooms from the 90s, except that they're a little bit more grown up in the way that they have a practical purpose. They're not just people killing time for the most part. Slack started as a corporate venture, which is why you have, they're called workspaces instead of servers, which is what Discord calls these areas here. And so for this reason, Slack feels, it's a little bit, Slack I think feels more like Apple and Discord feels more like a PC. If I can make that analogy here, where.
Just to be clear to people too, so Slack is on the left and Discord is on the right.
Yes, thank you. I apologize if that was unclear.
So you can see they look super similar, right? Which
Very
is one
similar.
of the things that I like about kind of like, you know, training students for Slack and Discord. They understand that like things are always going to be changing and things are slightly different versions of the same thing. And yeah, even seeing them side by side is fascinating.
Yeah, students, this generation will intuit this stuff very quickly, much more quickly than most of us will, because it all just makes sense to them, social applications. So in any case, Slack is sort of like Apple in that it's clean, it's simple, it's corporate, if I could say that about Apple. Whereas Discord it grew out of, while inspired by Slack, which started I think in 2013, whereas Discord is from 2015, if I remember correctly. Discord started as a gaming application. So before Twitch was really big, gamers wanted a place where they could discuss their interests, right? So if I go here to home, for instance, and I go to, how did I do this before? No, it's here. If I go to this button, everything changes, right? Now you have these huge communities, Fortnite, various anime and games, EDM. I mean, I wouldn't know the first thing to say in most of these channels, but people love them. You know, look, 25,000 members, 5,500 of which are online now, talking about linguistics. So you can explore the communities here. I could just type in art and see what happens. Of course, it will have a certain bent, this being Discord and being game oriented. So these are all public servers that anyone can join. What you would start with Discord to keep it similar to Slack would be a private server where people need an invite. And it's the same thing where you can choose to either give people an invite link or to email them about the Discord. So in any case, this is one of the big differences, is Discord is connected to this larger community. So if you're concerned about students' attentiveness in terms of what is possible for them to do within an application, Slack is cleaner. However, and I'll give one more pro to Slack that is a con for Discord. Slack can do threaded replies. So for instance, earlier, Laura said something, which channel was it in? Maybe it was in general? No, I could have sworn it was under remote courses where, yes, here it is. Okay, so Laura said, she was talking about having to have different passwords. So I went here to this little button, reply to thread. And what that does is it opens up a new area here next to Laura's comment where I can respond, other people can respond without it affecting the flow of the conversation. This is really handy because the way that conversation tends to flow in these programs is people will be talking about one thing in a channel and then suddenly a new topic will be introduced. And it can become sort of like you're around the dinner table and, you know, uncle over here wants to talk about X and everyone else is talking about Y, and then this person starts talking about Z. So if that's the case, then it's really useful to have threaded replies. And again, you do that by clicking on this little word balloon here. So that's a really nice feature that Slack has that Discord does not have. And what else can I say about that? Let's go to this one for a second. So as an example. So it's also nice because you could post an image here. So for instance, let's make believe for a second that this GIF that Michelle posted is a piece of artwork that we want to critique. I can click here and you could have each student list a reply here, and it would not And that way, the major flow here in this conversation could be just images. It could be just everyone's images. It would be nicely organized because you would have to click here in order to get my reply, which I would say something like, I like the creepy sense of motion this hot dog has. And I'll reply. And instead of that affecting the flow of conversation here, I would have to click here. Here, I'll exit out so you can see the way it would work. If I click here, it opens it up for me. Does that make sense?
How do you get students to follow that format? Because I like what you're saying, where it's just images.
It's just, I think, again, it's just about setting a scope at the beginning.
Okay.
Teaching them by demoing, by screen sharing, and saying, this is how we're going to do this. And if they don't do it, just reminding them. To me, it's the same as anything else. Thinking about Slack as or virtual teaching as being different in that way, I think it's all basically the same in my mind in that way. And they will learn faster. They'll pick up on it.
Yeah.
Plus, you got mob mentality working for you. They'll all work together to make sure everything moves smoothly.
Yeah, the more things can be organized too, the more they'll use it. I will say that too. Like if they can find things and they know exactly where like something is going to be, then like the room kind of will have life and take shape. And yeah, definitely the ability to keep things in a thread like that helps keep it clean.
Another quick thing you can do, add reaction here, sort of like a tap back in text in iMessage. I'll just wave to Anthony. And then someone else can also wave. They can just click on my wave and the number of waves will go up. There you go. Someone else just waved. I can add another emoji next to it and it'll show up here. Discord has basically the same feature up here. So other differences with Discord, there's one reason why I would use Discord over Slack personally, because they're so similar. The one pro it has is its dedicated chat feature. So the way that voice and video work in Discord are a little bit different. And this is why I elected to use it last spring. Basically, in Slack, if you were doing some kind of audio chat here, where I would click on this person and then we would talk, it works sort of like Skype or a phone call, where they have to answer in order for us to have a conversation. In Discord, I can just go to a channel, click here, and I'm going to mute myself because I don't want to actually talk randomly in this channel. And now I'm in the voice channel for this Discord server. Anyone can join me. Can be a whole group. You could have your whole class on here if you wanted. There's no reason not to, except that you can't record it in the same way that you can Zoom. The video feature works decently as well, although it makes everyone's screen vertical, which is a little strange. But I've had video chat using this that are sort of fun. But the point is that it functions more like a chat room. So the way that I would have one-on-one conversations with students during a larger class, it would be as though I was having a private conversation with this person. I would have to mute myself on Zoom and then go, it's a little complicated. Mute myself on Zoom over here, go into Discord over here, open up the audio chat, and wait for the other person to join. So when they join, their name would appear under my name here. So that's handy.
Yeah. Thank you so much for kind of explaining those differences. And again, like the animation and game arts department is going to use this exclusively from what I've heard. So yeah, thank you so much for the comparison.
Thank you,
Yes,
Jess.
one more quick thing. You can make folders of servers in Discord. So watch this, collapsible. So that's from New York Tech when I was teaching there. 3 different classes, 1 folder.
That's cool.
So that's sort of nice. I would imagine Slack is going to add that. I can't see a reason why, but in any case, that's where it stands right now.
Jess and Michelle, I'm so appreciative of what you added to the session. I feel like it truly is like an example of how collaborative this stuff is. And one thing too, to be honest, that came to my mind as we were in this session today is I think I'm gonna make, I know I said I'm making 4 channels this semester, but I think I'm actually gonna make 5. I think I'm gonna make an advising channel or advising workspace and put all my advisees on there and then just be able to like reach out to them at once or have separate breakout rooms or like put links to my office hours. Like, I just think it's gonna make, even in my own mind, I think it's gonna help bring like order and structure to my advising. So yeah, another thing to maybe consider is setting up a workspace for advising. Nice. Well, any other, I know we've been here for like an hour and 20 minutes, so I want to wrap up relatively soon. But I know Stacy's sticking around after to, if anyone else wants to stick around and ask like additional questions or troubleshoot, I have some time for that. Any last thoughts or questions before we end?
Just a quick question for Michelle. Michelle, you're using Google Classroom and Slack?
Oh, no, Michelle's here. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I'm not going to use my courses because I feel it's a little clunky. So I'm going to continue to use Google Classroom and then Slack and integrate those together. And I think I've said this before. Actually, last semester I didn't use Zoom all that much. I used it for lecturing, obviously, and then for final crits. But I really, the students and I really loved using Slack almost exclusively. So I would just, another shout out to Slack, how much it was great. Yeah.
Michelle, were you able to actually talk with them or were you doing it all via text?
All via text. And I think I've said this before too, that they quickly became more articulate and their writing improved greatly in a short period of time through using Slack. So I thought it just was a huge benefit, and it helped the momentum as well. Like I felt real, the students, you could feel their Zoom fatigue. And I felt like Slack, got around that really well. So just another poster child for Slack. Yeah.
And I mean, as students are kind of fighting with like loneliness and disconnect too, like, they can message each other, which is nice, like it's different than sending an email to someone and it really does help with group work too. It can feel very like alive. Like I personally like when I like log back into a workspace and there's like all these new messages and like channels that have been activated and like new images. Like it's cool. It does feel like more interactive and yeah.
Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing all of this.
Yeah, and I'll on that handout I'll update the polling part because I know that survey didn't quite work. And to Jess's point too, we can make a channel in our CVPA faculty called Slack, and people can just post. There are so many things that Slack can do, like so many things it can be integrated with, and like weird little, like my students I feel like are always showing me like things of like, typing in a thing and it makes like a unicorn appear or whatever, like it's pretty like, it's always changing too. It's always being updated. So thank you all so much for coming today. I'll post this recording online too, so if there's parts you want to go back and visit or if you want to share it with someone, and let me know if you have any questions. And thank you so much. Happy Friday.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
Hey.
Lucy, you're in the CVPA faculty under 2 emails now, you
Well, I feel like when I signed in, it was giving me some trouble. My daughter Martha's coming over.
Hello, Martha.
There's Bruce.
I mean, Stacy could have, but I'm sort of in the same situation. I didn't want to raise it in front of everybody because it makes me feel like a fool.
Yes.
And actually, I like feeling like a fool. It's very refreshing. But
Bruce, I just sent you a message. If you have any questions, you can also just ask me after. It's up to you, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Excellent. But it's very simple. When I loaded Slack onto my phone yesterday, I loaded I downloaded Slack onto my laptop this morning. My phone already had the CVPA faculty in it. I can't find the CVPA faculty on my my laptop. So
I think that's,
go ahead, Jess.
I think that's because when you are invited to, and Laura, correct me here if I'm wrong, when you're invited to a new workspace, you get a single sign-on, an SSO invite, so you don't have to enter a password at first, I think. So whichever you sign up with first, it will always be on that device. If you want it on a second device after that, it's a little bit more work. You have to set up a password.
How do you set up that password?
I would just go to cvpafaculty.slack.com.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I can put that in the chat, Bruce.
Please do. Thank you, Laura.
So I can redo that. So if I go in CVPA, what was it? Facultyslack.com, got it.
It's a subdomain of Slack, technically.
Why that didn't paste in as a link. Maybe they don't do that.
Just
Yeah,
brought,
I'm actually going to stop the recording too. Hold on. Or do you think I should keep it going? Do you think this is helpful for people?
I have no idea.
I'll just keep it going.
so
Okay,
that's
it asked me to, I'm sorry, Stacy, we're in the same boat. That's why I'm.
we're saying the same thing, Bruce, because I signed up and it wasn't signing me up with stacy.savage@umassd.com.
Mhm.
So I just said, to quicken it up, I just said, use Google. So then I think, Laura, can you tell, am I in as my Gmail on this CVPA faculty?
According to the workspace, what I'm seeing, I don't think you're officially in it yet because your name's not actually appearing.
All right, so I should go back to the original email.
What's your password for this Slack?
Oh, Martha wants to know what's the password for this,
That would be for you personally.
for the work.
I can see Stacy in Slack. You have a profile. Yeah, it's the only people who show up under direct messages are people who you've spoken to, I think.
Oh, okay.
And the bot. So for instance, if I go to add a new DM and I start typing STA, Stacy will show up.
Okay. So Stacy, you just need to figure out how to log. What happens when you go to that cvpafaculty.slack.com link? It should maybe be asking for your password to log in.
All right, so I'm gonna do it. I'm going back.
I've had to do the thing a few times where I have to reset my password because of this. That may happen to you.
Please ask